Hi there. Welcome to Stories, a podcast by Acadium where we focus on the stories of our incredible users. People come to Acadium for a few different reasons. They might be looking to build new skills, whether that's for a career change or just to deepen their craft, or they might be looking to get some eager extra hands on their project or business. In any case, people come to Acadium to grow, and we find that our users often have amazing stories to tell about their journeys, and we're here to share them. Our guest today is Sherri Goodall. With over 20 years of marketing experience, Sherri brings energetic confidence and creativity to her work. She's a lifelong learner and reader, through which Sherri diligently seeks out the best new books, podcasts, blogs, articles, conferences, and more so that she can bring the most up-to-date resources and information to her clients. Sherri came to Acadium as an apprentice, which speaks to her desire to learn as much as she can about her craft. Today, we talked about deciding to make a career change, the path to becoming an entrepreneur, apprenticeship, mentorship, and much more. I really enjoyed my conversation with Sherri, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with you. Sherri, thanks so much for joining me this morning.
Thank you so much for having me, Graham.
Of course, you've got an interesting background going on. Whereabouts are you located? I assume that's a virtual background.
It is a virtual background. I love the Zoom virtual backgrounds. This is actually a replica of a co-work space that I was using before the pandemic started. So,
Oh,
yeah.
nice. Yeah, I was located in a co-working space as well. I miss being able to go in there. Those spaces are fun. You meet all sorts of people with interesting stories.
Yes, yes, I love them. And I just think it's such a great and unique opportunity for entrepreneurs and people who are, working on their own.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I would love to get to the entrepreneurship thing as it relates to you because I know that you're running your own company now. But before we get there, maybe we could rewind the clock a little bit and talk a little bit about your path to getting to where you are today. Can you talk a little bit about how your career started out?
Sure. So way back in the Stone Ages, no, I'm just kidding. But I started out actually in PR and marketing. So I've always had a career in that. My educational background is in marketing. And over the years, I've done probably a little bit of everything. I've done sales. I've done email marketing, direct marketing. I've done digital marketing, which is what I do now. And right immediately prior to moving into digital, I did community outreach, which is known in the marketing world as corporate social responsibility. And I did that with a company. I was there for 13 years. And mm, a little over midway through, I'd switched into digital. And yeah, so I've always been in the field of marketing. I absolutely love it.
How
I
did you
like to call it the
decide?
psychology of business.
Right. How did you decide so early on that you wanted to go into marketing? What caused you to make that choice?
Hmm, great question. So I actually went into college thinking that I wanted to be a hospital administrator. So I was going to be a biology major and a business minor. And then I decided I didn't like biology as much as I thought, switched to business. And I took a marketing class, my marketing 101 class, and fell in love with it because it really is the psychology of business. Once I started getting into marketing courses, my core classes, I realized, there's things like the color of your brand, the placement of a product on a shelf when you go into the supermarket, little things that we don't think about as consumers that marketers are constantly thinking about. How do they get into the mind of the consumer to represent your brand or what you're positioning? And I just fell in love with it from there.
So I see looking at your resume, I guess, that you went to college, you had a career for looks like almost 20 years, and then you went back to school at Full Sail University to study internet marketing. So you had this experience in marketing, and then you made the decision to go back to pursue additional education. Can you talk to me a little bit about that experience?
Oh my goodness, yes. So I finished school. A lot of people, graduate with cum laude. I finished undergraduate thank you laude. Because I'm going to, in full transparency, I went to Howard University for undergrad and I had way too much fun. I partied way too much. And I did graduate, but by the time I finished, I was just done. I was like, I don't want to go to school. My dad wanted me to go to grad school. I refused. And then fast forward 20 years, and sad but true story, at that time, Facebook was my hobby and I fell in love with it and started taking, little certification courses here and there. And then I really started understanding the value of what Facebook could mean for businesses. And I was looking for a deep dive to understand more about digital and about social media, and stumbled into Full Sail University, which had a master's degree in internet marketing. And that blew my mind because I didn't want a traditional MBA. And I decided to sign up for that program literally and at the last minute, and went back to school in my late 40s to become a digital marketer. Convinced my then supervisor that I would use our company as my model for my thesis. And he liked that idea because at the time, believe it or not, we don't realize it, but Facebook and social media marketing wasn't really a thing about 12 years ago. And so he said, okay, it looks interesting, but nobody had really bought into social media marketing at that time for a business perspective. They just thought it was something the college kids did and they played on Facebook, right? But I really understood at that time, I saw the value that brands could get out of social media marketing. I mean, literally at the time that I decided to go back to school, our company was looking to do a focus group. And there's a lot of moving pieces, and it's very expensive to put together focus groups if you don't know anything about them. And when I saw this, I was like, this is really simple, and you get direct access to your consumer, and people give you immediate feedback. They're happy to tell you, and they're happy to be connected directly to the brand and not to, here's our phone number, give us a call, and back then send us an email. So yeah, that's how I ended up in going back to school.
And you make it sound like a fairly easy decision, and I think it's because, from what it sounds like, you were fairly forward thinking. You had a sense of what the future of marketing was going to look like, and you saw this program and figured, this is going to be a great thing for me because I want to get on top of this. This is something that we think about all the time at Acadium, not just as it relates to Acadium, but we see all these great programs out there being run like schools, like by schools like Full Sail. And I'm really interested in what it takes to really show people the value of that kind of education. And I think this is so relevant right now because people are being put out of work. Their worlds are being turned upside down. And I feel like this is an opportunity for a lot of people to take a step and make a career change if they need it. Can you unpack your decision-making process a little bit more? And maybe if it's more relevant, even just provide some advice for people who are thinking about taking that step. Maybe they see the program at Full Sail or a comparable school and say, oh, that looks interesting, but it's not for me. What would you say to those people?
That's a great question. What I would say is, if you're not really sure, start out the way I did and take baby steps, take courses. So Acadium is actually amazing. And I think this is a great way to get started if you're not fully sure, if you want to just go, full speed ahead into transitioning a career. Maybe you just want to learn more about it and have some experience to take back to the company or job that you're in. Acadium does an amazing job of connecting you with people who need the work, so you get experience. They have the training, and take courses and webinars and things like that, because once you get into it, you start to realize that there's so many different tools within internet marketing, and you can really niche down if you want to. And most people, myself included, when you first start dabbling in it, you just think social media. But internet marketing, digital marketing is so much more than that. And so, yeah, I would definitely tell anyone listening to get into taking some sort of course, and I think Acadium is the perfect answer for that.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I think from our perspective, looking out, obviously we think Acadium is a good option, but there are a lot of really great options for people out there, especially if you're just getting started.
Hmm.
I think Acadium is a place, or we think about it as a place where maybe you take that first course and then you come here to apply that. But I'm just amazed at how many options there are for people out there who know nothing about digital marketing, or a whole host of other different skills that are really applicable right now. You can just sign up and in some cases for free, start to learn.
Yes. And I actually just recently signed up for a course for free, because I wanted to just kind of see what's new and what has changed. I will say that Full Sail has an amazing program where they actually, once you're a graduate, you have lifetime access to come back and do monitor classes. For not for a grade, but you can actually monitor some of your courses. And for a digital marketer, especially as technology and things are changing even as we speak, that's very important. So I find that it's necessary, if you go into this field as a profession, that you're always going to be learning. And I think you need to have a passion for learning. I like learning. I love reading. I love, learning new things. And so in digital, you're always learning because it's moving so fast.
That's a really great point. I think for somebody thinking about starting out on the path of digital marketing, it's important to understand yourself enough, um, and realize that you're the type of person that really thrives on change, and is hungry for new knowledge. Because if you're not, then it's probably just not going to be an enjoyable career path, because it changes so frequently. I think that's a really important realization.
Yes, yes.
One of the things that I find really interesting about you, and we have seen this before on Acadium, is that you've got all this experience. You're running your own company, and you were an apprentice on Acadium. So on this note of being the kind of person that really loves to learn new things, you strike me as somebody who could be an excellent mentor on Acadium. But you chose to be an apprentice because you saw this as an opportunity to learn. Can you talk to me a little bit about how you decided to become an apprentice on Acadium?
Sure. So I stumbled into Acadium, again, looking for opportunities, and what what I needed at the time. My agency was super new, and I was in the process of looking for opportunities. So I found myself in a very between a rock and a hard place. When I left my job to start my business, I had been at that company for 13 years, and I had been doing digital for them for 7. But when you want to move into a new job, they want to see your experience. And I only had one brand that I could speak to and one type of company. In digital, you want to have vast experience. You need to have a portfolio, particularly if you're looking to get a job. And at the time, I was looking for another job, and I was having a hard time finding it. So I said, forget it, I'll just start my own company. And I needed that experience. And so when I looked at Acadium, it gave me an opportunity to be an apprentice with other businesses and to do some work with them. But also, the biggest thing for me was that I was able to get a referral, and I was able to acknowledge them on my portfolio and say, I've worked with this brand, this is what we accomplished. And I needed that as a business starting out, so that when I went to go look for additional business, business and send pitch decks and things that I could say, these are the things that I've accomplished. And just having one brand on there makes it hard when you're asking for new business. So it really helped me in that way.
We've seen this before. It's this thing that has kind of built itself into Acadium. It's not the intention that we had, but we've been delighted to see other people who are trying to start an agency use Acadium as a jumping off point to meet people that they can work with in the future. It's really exciting for us because it's helped a lot of people launch their businesses. Can you talk to me a little bit more about your agency?
Sure. So my agency is called Full Circle Marketing. And full circle marketing is just that. When I came up with the name, I really wanted it to speak to my theory of marketing. Of course, we live in a digital age, but there's so many other aspects to marketing. So I feel like when you couple traditional marketing with digital marketing, you then have the complete circle, right? I don't believe in putting all your eggs in one basket. And so our agency specializes in strategy because we believe that we have all these pieces and we're able to show you how to put the pieces of the puzzle together to create a great marketing strategy. And those pieces can include things like web design, email marketing, social media marketing, and so much more. We stick with three basic things that we hone in on, which is the web, email, and social media management. Now we do, if it need be, when we're putting a strategy together and a client needs SEO and things like that, do we know how to do that? Yes. Or we can outsource it or get someone from Acadium, right? But we look to see what are the full puzzle pieces that we need based on the goal of what the campaign or the client needs.
Interesting. And now in the apprenticeship that you did, were you focused on one of those three things, or were you learning something new?
Yeah, so I was actually focused on helping out with strategy. Once I got in and started talking to my mentor, I recognized very quickly that she needed more of a strategy than the pieces that she thought. So she had a lot of the pieces there, but once I spoke to her and we talked through, she allowed me to help her pull those different pieces together. And she actually had several Acadium mentees, and so we pulled everything together, and so now she's just completely blown up. Do I get to talk about her? Can I mention her name?
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is a complete shout out to Tara L. Page. At the time, she was the TLP brand, Tara L. Page, and now she has transitioned and added the Patio Chick under her belt. And we have become tremendous friends and still talk regularly. And the Patio Chick has completely grown from May to now. She's taken a lot of the strategies that we talked about, and now she has grown to 100,000 followers in her Facebook group and is starting to get sponsorships, and all kinds of things are going on for her. So yeah, it was a great experience for both of us.
What advice would you have for either a mentor or an apprentice or both that's just starting out on this path on Acadium? And I ask because it sounds like you had a really positive experience on the platform. Can you unpack a little bit? Can you unpack maybe some of the things that you and your mentor focused on that made that experience successful?
I think the biggest thing that any mentor should think about is making sure that you have consistent, regular communication with your mentee, because they're there to learn and they want to know, how to work with you. And even if it's someone like myself who does have experience, you still need to understand how to work within that organization and how to work towards the goal that the person who brought you in, your mentor, the goal that they had for hiring you in the first place or bringing you on. So that's number one. And Tara did a good job of that, working with me and kind of showing me what she needed. And her brand was so different than anything I had worked in up until that point. So that was good. As a mentee, or you know, a person who's looking to grow, I think you have to be flexible. I relied heavily on what Acadium gave us as the guidelines. You know, you're there for 3 months, you have a responsibility to that person who brought you on, and, you know, certain things that are expected of you as an Acadium mentee. So I tried to stick to that as closely as possible because I wanted the opportunity to come back and hopefully, you know, get picked up by another mentor, and also eventually to start bringing on my own mentees.
How did you, whether it be in your profile or through the conversations with the mentor up front, how did you go about communicating what you wanted to get out of the apprenticeship?
Well, you know, the way the platform is set up, you put in the type of mentors that you're looking for, or programs that you'd like to work on. So that helped. And then once Tara started doing interviews, she asked me what I wanted to get out of it, and, you know, those sort of things. I don't think you should be shy about that, because you're there for a purpose just like they're there for a purpose. And it doesn't serve either one of you if you aren't clear and transparent about what you're looking to get out of it. So she knew that I wanted to get this opportunity to build my portfolio. And I needed it to be good because I'm full-time self-employed at that point, which I still am, and I needed to make sure that I had somebody that I could use as a reference. So that was super important. And even just last week, I submitted a proposal for, I had an RFP, submitted a proposal, and I reached out to Tara and said, hey, can I use you as a reference? And she said, absolutely. So, you know, she was one of the resources that I was able to put on that RFP. And that's important if you're building a resume or a career.
What are your plans for the future with full circle marketing? Where do you want to take this business?
Wow. So the thing is, I really see us being um, the marketing agency that can help small businesses in a 3 to 5 year period, where we can actually turn them loose to the big dog agencies. I don't have a desire to be, you know, one of those huge marketing agencies. I do have a desire to work with businesses to get them organized where they can work with larger agencies. And so that's what I really want to hone down on and niche into. And one of the things that we're working on right now is a collaboration with two other marketing agencies who are in different states. We're putting together a whole program around funnel building, because what we realize is that you can have all these other niches, right? Social media marketing, website, all of that. And clients come to you, for example, this is what happened, Graham. Clients will come to you and say, hey, can you do social media marketing for us? You know, we're trying to get more engagement. We want more sales, this, that, and the third. Well, you can grow somebody's social media page, but if they aren't getting conversions, it doesn't matter, because what they think they need is not actually what they're usually asking you for. They're usually asking you for one thing, but at the end of the day, everybody wants conversions. They want lead generation, they want sales, you know, they want traffic to their website, etc. Right? And so in talking with the other agencies, we realized that value of creating funnels. And so that's where we're going next with the company, and really building out to serve our customers in a better way. So we'll still provide the three core services that we have, but we realize funnels is going to be a really crucial part of that, to get people to where they need to be, and my goal and vision of being able to turn them over to a larger agency, because they need to show and prove that they are making the sales and the revenue.
How do you steer those conversations? So somebody comes to you with one expectation of what you're going to do for them, and then you say, "Well, hold on a minute. I think it's actually this that's really important. That's going to be really important for your business." How do you get to that insight and handle those conversations?
Well, first of all, I'm a pretty direct person. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I think that it's always your job as a consultant or somebody who's being hired by a brand to present the opportunities and the information to them and allow them to make the decision. So I don't I don't try and force anybody into that direction, but I present the facts and I'll say, this is what we can do with social media marketing. And then I show them how that coupled with, sales funnels or any other type of strategy that we're talking about, usually email marketing or something like that, how they work together. They don't operate in a vacuum. And most people get that. There are times when people are like, nope, I just want you to grow my social media page. And I say, okay, that's their right. But I never feel bad about it if they make a decision other than what I would prefer for them to make, because I've presented all the opportunities. Sometimes they'll come back and be like, yeah, you were right. Okay, let's add this in. But it's never my job to make that decision for them. It's my job to present them with as I like to say, to hold the light, hold the torch and light the path for how they can get there. They have to decide whether they're going to do it or not.
That's really helpful advice. Maybe as a final question, we've talked a bit about advice for people who are thinking about making a career change, advice for people who are thinking about an apprenticeship. Why don't we end it with advice for people who have this sense that they'd like to be an entrepreneur and they'd like to go out on their own, but there's something holding them back from doing it. What advice would you have for those people?
Wow, that's a packed question for me. I would say my own personal mantra is that I don't want to die with what if. And so if you're thinking about entrepreneurship and wanting to do it, I don't necessarily recommend that everyone do it the way I did, which was literally turn in a 2-week notice and be like, yeah, I'm out. I'm going to go start a company. Um, but, and without any plans, mind you, but I did. But what I do suggest is that you really think through it, but more importantly is that you have to take the leap. You can't wait until you see it. It's, if you've ever been, Graham, I'm sure you've had that where you've been driving at night and it's on a really dark road, right? And you've got your headlights on and you can only see as far as your headlights are allowing you to see. And then the further you go, you see there's a curve and you follow the curve and you just follow the path of that road. Well, I think that's how you have to look at it when you're making the leap into entrepreneurship. You have to make the step and realize that the rest of the path will appear. Because if you wait for it to be clear, if you wait for it to fully appear, you're never going to take it. And even once you're in it, you still have to live by that because it doesn't change. There's a lot of guidance, but there's no perfect way of doing any of this. Everybody's path is their own, and that's not pie in the sky thinking. It's really true. It's so very true. And I didn't understand that, but I was willing to take the step and move into entrepreneurship.
Sherri, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, this was fun.
Yes, it has been.